Let's paint this medieval town of Cervo, Italy on the Ligurian Sea with wet washes and ink. Many thanks to Teresa Calver of Free Reference Photos for Artists for this gorgeous reference photo. Let's get started. I already traced the buildings with a dip pen and waterproof ink, which I will use again later. So I'll just go ahead and put the lid on it so it doesn't dry out. This is an 8x8 Be Creative watercolor journal with 100% cotton, 140-pound paper in cold pressed, which is smoother than most other cold pressed papers. And that's why I like it for this kind of thing. And I will be using lots of wet and wet washes and my convenience palette. The sky in the distance is pretty bright. It has a lot of white wispy clouds. I'm going to get a little bit of cobalt blue. I'm going to wet the sky. And I'm going to go all the way down to the ocean. This paper is really good for this kind of thing, but it doesn't like a lot of layers. If you start putting layer upon layer upon layer, it is going to peel off the layer that came up that was on there before. So there's a little blue here, goes here. I'm just roughly looking and using the reference photo for like how much blue I'm seeing in the sky. I'm seeing some right here. There's the horizon line. So I'm going to lift a little of that off with a damp brush. And lifting on this paper, you have to do it as soon as you put down the color. It doesn't like to be lifted like with an eradicator brush or anything. Okay, get that all smoothed out. And just for fun, I'm going to also add a little bit of yellow ochre. I mean, the tiniest little bit. I don't want it to mix with the blue and make green. So that's all I'm going to do right there. I'm going to go ahead and do the ocean. I'm going to add, see, I'll get some more cobalt blue. I'm going to add a tiny bit of green. I have some green here already. I'm just going to use that. But just add any kind of green that you have around just to change the tint a little bit. And that's going to be the ocean right here. Rinse my brush out, and now I have a damp brush. And I'm bringing that across here. And for the ocean, I want it to be far away, so I don't want it to go over the lines of the buildings. I want these to look like they are up high on a cliff and far away from the ocean. I like that it blended into the sky right there. Okay, I'm going to move on now to the greenery. There's a dark green right here, and for that I'm going to get undersea green. I'm going in with a pretty dark wash right off the bat. And that green comes up in here. Oh, I just obliterated that whole little house. Oh well. No one will know. Who's to see? I'm going to get some serpentine green for right underneath here. And I'm going to come down here. And I'm going to get some more of the undersea green. And I want to get a real dark green, so I'm going to get a perylene green. There's a dark, dark, dark right here. I'm even going to grab that green that was already on my palette and add it to that. And I'm roughly following what these bushes look like. There's a house. Wait, what is this? That was the house that I obliterated. So this is light green. all this is light. Except for this right here, because it's on the side of the building, away from the sun. And now I'm going to add some yellow. I'm going to get some Naples yellow. I don't want that. I want some nickel azo yellow. I'm diluting it. Right there, right here. I'm going to brighten up some of these darker areas. Some more undersea green. And this is where the wet and wet is the most fun. It has started to dry here. It's bleeding into the ocean. So I'm going to add a little more to that so it doesn't look, you know, kind of funny. And now I have so many different colors going on here. I'm going to add a little blue. I'm going to get some ultramarine blue into these darker areas. And now this bush, this one here is closer to us. So I'm going to let this dry. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to put the yellow in. I'm going to take the nickel azo yellow and add it in the background of this bush. And I'm going to throw in a little bit of the undersea green, but not a lot. And I'm going to let this dry before I do anything else to this bush. It's pretty wet. This is a lighter bush, so I'm going to take that off and add the Serpentine Genuine. I got out some table salt, and I want to put some here. That'll be a bush. And I want to put some here for that bush in front. So these two, this is a big yellow bush, and this is a greenish yellow bush, and they're in the front. I'm going to put a little here too. I'm actually going to put some more yellow here. And then for even more texture, you can. I just want to show you what is happening as this wash dries. You can see a little bit of the salt has started doing its job. It's bloomed. And the granulating paint is separating. I just love this right here. This is going to be really pretty. So this is all dry and so much texture and different colors and different values. I just love this. And that is partly because of this paper. I don't know if I would get this same result like on an Arches hot pressed or even cold pressed. It probably would look different, but still just as pretty. So when I want to practice something, I really like this journal. I'm going to wet this, and this bush has a sort of a, I'm just trying to make an irregular edge right there. And I'm going to add some sap green just to help me not go too overboard. Okay, and now this has a real dark value right here, to which I'm going to add some perylene green. And I'm going to wet the rest of this bush. And I'm just going to poke in some yellows and greens and have them be separated by some of the yellow that's already on here. I'm going to start with a green gold. And I am going to wick. Since it's already wet, I'm using this soft number 6 Princeton Neptune. Just dabbing all around. Okay, now I'm going to get just some yellow. I'm going to get some, this is Permanent Yellow Deep. It's an orangey yellow. That is what we needed right there. Okay, that looks good. I like that. And now I'm going to get the Perylene green again. And kind of go in between these yellows. And then up here they're dark. This is a really pretty wet and wet wash, if I'd say so myself. I really like this. There's another really dark value kind of attached to this, and it goes around and down here. And the way that you can see values a little better is to squint. If you squint your eye and look at that reference photo, you're going to see some shapes that are darker than the rest of the bush, like right here. I'm going to get more Perylene green. And now I don't have a very wet brush. It's pretty damp. So this dark went up here. And then there's a little bit right here. And then just around. And I think I'm going to leave that like that. I do see a little bit of red house peeking through here, but I'm not going to put that in there. Now I'm going to let this dry. It's time for me to do the buildings, and on my palette I have gotten out some Naples yellow, some transparent orange, a little bit of burnt sienna, and some permanent yellow deep. And what I'm going to do is use my soft Princeton Neptune number 6, and I'm going to just do this. I'm going to consider my strokes and do the minimum amount that I should do and dab it on or swipe it on and leave it. That's all I'm going to do. This is really hard for me. I really want to go fix that, but I'm not going to. Now I'm getting some very light value transparent orange, and I'm going to do that building. And I'm going to do this one. I'm going to put a little, take some of that off. I'm going to do the roofs once the building's dry. I'm going to add some orange to that building. Now this one has, there's like some clutter up here. I'm just going to do it with the, I'm going to do some permanent yellow deep here. And then this here is permanent yellow deep. I'm going to add a little bit of the transparent orange to it, just to make it a little deeper and a little different than what's underneath it. This house behind this roof is a little bit darker. I'm going to get some burnt sienna. It's probably a little darker because it's in shadow. So, plop on some paint. And then I forgot to do this. So I'm going to get back into the Naples yellow. Okay, I'm going to let all of this dry before I move on. Now I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to switch up the colors a little bit. First, I'm going to put in the color for this, which I did with, I mixed up a light value of, this is what I did. I did a little bit of burnt umber and a little bit of lavender, and I got kind of a putty color, which is what that little tower looks like. So I'm going to get my brush wet and have a good amount of water on it, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to leave this alone. Just going to do this the right hand side. And I'm just dabbing on, going right over the windows. And the reason I left that white was because there's some sun shining on it. And then to this, I'm just going to add a little bit of Naples yellow. And I'm going to let that stay the way it is. Now with this one, I'm going to get some permanent yellow deep in a light value and add it. I'm going to get a little bit of transparent orange for the side of the building. I think I'll get a little bit of the burnt umber. I'm going to do some more Naples yellow. And I like how that looks. I'm going to just darken this side a little bit with a little bit of the putty. A little more. And then a little bit of the Naples yellow. Okay. And I'm leaving that the way it is, I think. I might add a little orange when that dries. And then this is going to have a little bit of putty. If you don't have a lavender to mix, get some white gouache and mix it with your purple. And then mix a little bit of the burnt umber in that. And add lots of water so it's light. A little bit more of the permanent yellow deep. And then the rest of it, I'm gonna, what's on here? Maybe some of the putty with a little bit of transparent orange. I'm ready to do the roof, all of the roofs. I'm gonna do the terracotta ones first, so I'm just gonna use straight burnt sienna. And I'm still using the same brush. It's not super wet. It's not super dry either, so I guess it's sort of medium. I'm just going to dab on some burnt sienna. This has burnt sienna. This one has burnt sienna, but it's lighter, so I'm going to come back when I have something else on my brush. This building is burnt sienna. I don't know what's happening with these lines. I think I got confused. This has some shadow. We can't see the roof on that one. This has some shadow. So does this. And so does this. Okay. And now I'm going to get some transparent orange. It wicked a little bit. And I'll do this one. Making myself dab it on instead of painting it on. A little bit more here. And then this one is a little bit more, it's a little more orangey than it is burnt sienna. Okay. And then these are, looks like they're metal, but I see a little hint of green. They're kind of shiny. I'm going to put a little bit of lemon yellow. And I kind of just wanted a tiny little bit of it on there. And I'm going to take some of the green, very light value of green, and dab it on there. And then when it's dry, I think I'll just add some more ink to the details. Okay, now the face of the buildings are dry, and I'm going to switch now to my number 2, and I'm going to put in some windows. I'm just going to make it easy and grab some neutral tint. If you have Payne's Gray, if you have indigo, any of those will work. Okay, I have a very dark value, and I'm going to add 1, 2. This one has a little rectangle one. 1, 2. This one has a diamond. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This one has, I'm going to try and do it in 2. 1. Well, I guess I did it in 3. This I can do in 1. So that makes up for it. I don't know why I just did that. Okay, any more windows? There's one down here in the bush. And then there's one there. I'm going to take some of that up because it's a little bit obscured. And now I'm going to add a little more shadow under the roofs. And I'm going to do that with a lighter value of the neutral tint with my same number 2 brush. And I'm going to try to do it in one swipe. This one doesn't have as much. There's a little bit there, and a little bit there. This is some kind of, I don't know what this is. It's just a shape that I'm adding on. It's a shape on the photo, but I don't know what it is. Let's add another shadow here. Swoop. And then there's a little bit in the white, and we're going to go down the little pipe. Same here. Okay, I want to darken these. Lighter value there, lighter value there. There's a little bit of a window on the side of this building. I just rinsed off my brush. I left a little bit of neutral tint on it, and I rubbed it through the burnt sienna. And we have that. Okay, this roof is actually some lemon yellow. And then there's shadow under it. I'm going to clean my brush better and get some more lemon yellow. And then there's a window down here. Maybe that's what those lines are. There's windows, and it's kind of confusing right there. And then the right side of this is a little different than the left side. Okay, now these roofs don't look like I did anything to them. I'm going to add a little bit of blue. I'm getting some cobalt blue. And I'm going to add some there and some there and up here. And then I'm going to get a little bit of the burnt sienna and add it here. Got some of that burnt sienna that I mixed with a little bit of neutral tint that I'm going to add here. Going to add a little more detail there and there. A little more here. Okay, I'm going to let that dry and I'm going to use my pen. Okay, I mixed a little bit of purple, neutral tint, lavender, and a little bit of burnt umber right here, and I added a lot of water. And now I'm going to use this in my pen by doing this. Painting it right onto the nib. And I'm going to do a practice not going down to the tip. Let me get it on there. I wanted something to do these little man-made like antennas and stuff. So this antenna, I don't know if this is going to work. It comes up like that, sticks off like that. There's one sticking off here, and that's kind of dark. There's some kind of antenna over here. It looks all crooked and blurry. There's something sticking off the roof there and there. And then this building has a whole bunch of these little marks. They might be little windows. Some scrapes or something because they're old. And then there's some stuff. Okay, I'm going to go up here. And there's a little blobby thing right here. And a thing right here. I think that might be a cross. There's a little thing right there. This chimney has a little thing on it. The top of this. Okay, now I'm going to get out my black ink. And just see like where I have any spots that I feel like should have a dark line, especially like under the roofs, right there, right here. A little downspout. And now this roof has some, oh, I should have used my watercolor on this. That's why I wanted to do it. I was going to use a watercolor to do some little bit of detail on the roof. So when I'm done with the black, I'll come back and do that. How about here, up here? Here we have some overlapping roof tiles. Okay. I think I'll do just a little bit of texture on here. I'm going to add some more green with my number 6. I noticed that this just needs a little bit more. This is in shadow. And then that needs to be green. So I'm going to grab some more perylene green and add some of that purpley mix to it to darken it. And then a little bit here. And then there's a little bit of dark down here. Soften that. And soften this a little bit. So a little trick, upcoming on one of my Patreons, I ended up using some Viridian green on some metal. And so I was thinking that might work on this roof. So I have a little bit of Viridian green. I think that looks good. I'm going to dab some of it off. I think that's just what it needed. And then the other thing I wanted to do was splat into this wash. There's just something, to me, there's just something missing. And I think it just might be a second layer. Here I want to do I'm going to get some cadmium yellow. That will show up over this because it's cadmium. It's covering up some of the texture a little, so it isn't so obviously texture from salt or anything. And I think that looks really good. And we're done. This is the best part, taking off the tape. And you have a nice crisp edge. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial and that you give it a try in your own art.